Hi, Dr. Tom Hanson here, the Playbook Academy, and I just wanted to take a few moments and give an acknowledgement to a guy named Tim Galway. Tim Galway wrote The Inner Game of Tennis. There's a good chance if you're ended up with watching this that you know of the Inner Game of Tennis, or maybe even read it. If so, I'd encourage you to revisit it here. That's what I've been doing lately. It's the 50th anniversary. They just had a 50th anniversary, sort of a convention, an online 24-hour event where really honoring Tim Galway and the inner game of tennis philosophy and the major impact that it's had in both the sports world and in the business world, neither of which has really brought it to the fruition to where it ought to be, in my opinion, which is very mainstream. The idea is like people, you think that you know it, but you don't. And so as I revisit it, like I'm rereading Inner Tennis. I've got Inner Game of Stress. It's a great book. Inner Game of Work, applying it all to work. I've got Inner Game of Golf, and I could really just sit and read them, and read them, and it would I still wouldn't fully grasp it. Not that it's complicated, not that it's complex. It's just that it's so profound that there's a tendency to skip off of it. Say, okay, I got that. And next time you come back, you go deeper. For example, one of his main premises is to think in terms of self one and self two. Self one, I think of as little me. It's like has a lot to do with your amygdala, the lower functioning of your brain, about keeping you safe, keeping you under control. The little voice that you have, sometimes a big voice that you have in your head, is usually very self one, because self two is more your authentic self, your freed up self, your trusting self, you're able to just let go self. And you think of a time when you played tennis or sports of any any sport, or you were in business, or you were in a relationship, you were in any situation where there was a sense of flow, a sense of ease, and things slowed down. That's your self two. That's like this supercomputer. It's sort of like your AI versus doing math by hand. With when you are freed up and trusting and letting go, self two, magic can happen. When you're over here working hard, thinking, giving technical instruction to yourself, criticizing yourself, very judgmental here, very kind of small-minded stuff, that's self one. It's really about, well, how do you play or perform? How do you live your life? Much more from yourself two than in yourself one. One of the great drills, I would rank it as the number one drill in all of sports psychology. I got into the field in 1983, so I've been at it for a while. I still would say it was bounce hit. And bounce hit, which is in the inner tennis, but not the inner game of tennis, is when the ball bounces, you say bounce out loud, and as you hit the ball, you say hit. What that does is it ties up self one. It gives it something to do. Oh, okay, bounce, hit, that's it. And meanwhile, the self two is taking over and is hitting the ball, whatever sport you might be hitting a ball in, interacting with the person. Say you're doing it in sales. Are you connected? What's the ball? Maybe it's the tone of voice of the person on the other end of the phone. Whatever it is, kind of identify what's the ball in this situation and how can I bring my awareness and attention to it such that it frees my natural trusting self to just go and compete. So there was one quote here that really triggered this video for me. I just randomly was picking this up, and he says, in summary, this is for chapter 2, the way we see events approaching us, whether it be a ball or another person, affects the way we respond to them. The way we respond to them affects the way we regard ourselves, and this in turn affects the way we see new events. Our actions reflect the clarity of our perceptions. Our actions reflect the clarity of our perceptions. If you just see the ball coming to you, that's just it. It's just the ball coming at you. What he'll talk about is a lot of times you see a ball coming at you, and it could be literally a ball if you're playing a sport, or a figurative or metaphoric ball coming at you, like here comes another person, your boss. It's like, do you perceive that as a person or as just the ball, or is it a threat? When you perceive it as a threat, amygdala will contract. Hey, go into fight, flight, or freeze. You can freeze. You contract. Your stroke isn't there. Your words aren't there. You can't remember the person's name, and because your body is in fight, flight, or freeze. But it's just a ball coming at you. When I interviewed Joe Madden, longtime manager and manager of the Cubs, and they broke the curse, won the World Series, I said, well, say that guy over there has a great mental game. What does he have? If you assess that he's got a great mental game, what are you basing that assessment on? He says he doesn't add meaning. He doesn't add meaning to a situation. If a ground ball is coming to him, it's a ground ball coming to him. It's not a threat. It's not the chance to prove yourself. It's not a chance to make a mistake. It's not anything other than a ball coming at me. And as such, a ball coming at you, if you're locked in, you're able to be in self too, you've got your best chance of making a play. It doesn't guarantee you success or winning. But that's the kind of thing that's in here. So mostly I'm advocating get one of the inner game books that speaks to you. Look, I think there's 4 or 5 of them. And then pay attention, even maybe just to this idea of self-1 or self-2. Today, have I been more in self-1? Have I been more in self-2? And if I were in self-2 for the rest of the day or for this next hour, what would that even look like? What would my self, for whatever you're going to do, what would self-2 look like? Imagine that, and then just go into it and see what happens. So, again, just a big shout out and plug and a thank you for Tim Galway for the monstrous, huge contribution that he made simply by making observations on the tennis court, which was really about finding a better way to learn. How can I help these people learn tennis quicker, easier, faster? There's all stuff. I've got a whole program actually called Effortless Power Hitting, where it's very inner game stuff applied to, in this case, baseball hitting. To go get that effortless power without getting mechanical, worrying about the mechanics of it. How do you do that? It's a lot about asking questions. But we'll get into that perhaps another time. For now, I highly recommend picking up something, one of these books, or digging into something inner game and dive in, let yourself too just run with it. That's getting out there and playing big. We'll see you next time.